Hi, everybody, and welcome to this evening. We are super excited to be here today, and I will just wait a couple of minutes because I have everyone just jumping on. The session today is going to be recorded, so you will receive the replay after this. So if for any reason you can't stay for the whole time, don't worry too much. You will get a recording. And I'll also just add on, actually, I'll just wait a second because the numbers are just creeping up. We have had such a big interest in this, and we've got over a few hundred people jumping on, so it's pretty big. Alrighty. So, welcome to Australia's largest online education evening, and we are really thrilled to bring together a diverse range of experts and educators to provide you with an evening filled with valuable insights and knowledge. In this webinar, we'll be covering an update from each state along with some guests from Property Insurance Plus and MCG Quantity Surveyors to remind you of the importance of these two products as an investor. Now, before I get started, like any good event, I need to do a quick disclaimer for you. So, before we dive into the webinar, we would like to remind everyone that the information presented in this webinar is intended for general educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by our speakers are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the webinar organisers. It is important to note that any information provided during the webinar should not be considered as professional advice, and we strongly recommend that you seek professional advice before making any decisions based on the information presented. And finally, we'd like to remind everyone that investing in any market, including property, carries risks, and it's important to conduct thorough research and seek professional advice before making any investment decisions. So now that that's the formality out of the way, what the process for tonight is going to be is we are going to have some 5-minute state-by-state check-ins. We're going to start off by having 3 straight up, and then we're going to get into some education with Property Insurance Plus, and then we'll cover another 4 states, and then we'll have Aaron from MCG Quantity Surveyors jump in, and then we'll have the WA update just after that. And at the end of the evening, I'll also have a QR code that will allow you just to scan and just do a really quick 60-second survey for us so that we can find out what you are wanting to see more of and also how frequently you'd like these to be done as well. So stay back to the end, and it would be great if you could do that survey for us. And the last thing I will just mention is that each of our presenters are all my favourite property managers from around Australia, and they are going to be available on the chat. So please make sure that any questions you've got, you do put in that chat forum, and they will jump in after their session and answer as many of them as they can as well. So let's get started with Tamika down in Tasmania. I'm just going to share her on the screen, and I hope everyone enjoys tonight.
Hi everyone, I am Tamika Smith here, Director of Q2 Property in Tassie. We cover the north of the state predominantly, pretty much anywhere from Launceston right through to Devonport across our 2 offices. The market we've seen has been really good the last couple of years, and it has just started to settle. So the sales market is settling, which is great for investors. And I'm starting to see a lot of investors come back into the market in that Launceston through Deloraine to Devonport area. At the moment, we're currently working with about 20 investors that are keen to get back into our market, which is great. So trending suburbs for us at the moment in the under $500,000 mark are certainly areas slightly out of the city. So Deloraine, Westbury, Hadspen, Devonport. Closer into the city, you're looking at sort of Kings Meadows, St Leonard's, Summerhill. And what I'm seeing in those suburbs at the moment is a return on investment anywhere between sort of 5 to 7%, which is fantastic because we've only been seeing sort of 2 to 4% returns over the last couple of years, and we're back up in that 5 to 7, which is exactly where we want our investors to be. If you're wanting to buy in the city and you've got a little bit more capital to spend, in that sort of $500,000 to $700,000 mark. The really hot pockets at the moment are the West Launceston, Prospect and Newstead areas. And again, we're still seeing really good returns there at around sort of 6%, which is fantastic. So good to see investors coming back into the market. We're seeing at our open for inspections for rentals really good numbers still through in the under $500 a week market. So that's really, really popular. It's really affordable housing. It's generally on the outskirts of the city. Really strong applications, and days on market are sort of that 5 to 10 at the most. And vacancy rate there is well under 1%. Over the $500 a week market, it is a little bit slower. We're seeing average days on market anywhere from sort of 14 to 20 days on market, and applications are still really strong, but we're seeing probably more that 5 to 10 applications in that market opposed to under 500. We're seeing that sort of 20 plus applications. So rental market still strong. I expect that it will probably quieten off over winter as it normally does in Tasmania. However, things are looking really good and really great for investors. Lease renewals at the moment across our two offices on our almost 800 properties, we're seeing a 98% retention rate at the moment. So tenants are really happy and wanting to stay put, which is fantastic. And we're seeing an average of a 13% increase in rents, which is fantastic for investors. So rents are still going up, not as high as we have seen them in the past, but we are still seeing a really steady increase in rents, which is fantastic. So that's pretty much it for the north of Tassie. I will drop my details into the box. So if you have any questions anywhere from Launceston right through Deloraine, the Meander region, right through to Devonport, we are more than happy to help you out, and I'll drop my details in the box for you.
Hi guys, I'm Nat Yaxley from View Real Estate in Hobart. I cover the Greater Hobart region. I've been a property manager down here now for just over 6 years, and I'm on the ground managing property directly. So I just would like to give you a bit of a rundown of what I'm seeing in the market at the moment. So we've got a vacancy rate of 0.9%, which is just a little bit higher than this time last year. 237 vacancies at the moment compared to only 99. Okay, so we are seeing days on market across the board just that little bit longer. So we have an average of 23 days on market compared to last year, which was around the 10 to 12 days on market. Okay, so the median house price in Hobart at the moment, so a 3-bedroom house is renting for around the $575 per week, which has dropped 4% compared to this time last year. Units, so the 2-bedroom units at the moment are going for $525 per week, which is actually a 6% increase compared to last year, still with the 23 days on market on average to lease. Okay, at the start of the year, I was finding a lot of interstate people coming through the open home wanting that sea change, that lifestyle change. So I think we had a lot of people, I think the news reported they're either moving to Hobart or Brisbane. So I was doing a lot of virtual inspections at that time at the start of the year, which was quite fascinating. That has now eased off just a little bit, and we are now getting steadily in our open homes 3 to 5 groups coming through. The key at the moment I'm finding is not to overprice the rental properties. So we really need to do our research down here, making sure we are making good market value. Anything overpriced is not leasing. Okay, so we are then having to adjust the rent slightly, which means days on market just that little bit longer. Lease renewals, I've completed them up to the end of June, and we've got 98% of our tenants staying put. And I'm also seeing a lot of the cost of living affecting people at the moment. So people aren't moving. People aren't, wanting in the COVID times. People were really wanting that lifestyle change or wanting, the house by the beachside. People really aren't wanting that at the moment. So that cost of living has really affected our tenants at the moment. So 98% are staying on, and we are still seeing about a 2 to 5% rental increase at the moment. But, you know, things are moving. You just need a smart property manager down here that can price things really well. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to skip Jason. Jason from Adelaide will come on after Brenda. So Brenda, I am going to bring you on next from Property Insurance Plus. Jason, I'll bring you on. Oh, hold on. Oh, you're there, you're there. All right, well, I'm going to jump.
I was talking away. I apologise. I was talking away and I thought it was working. You can hear me now?
Oh, good. I can hear you and I'm going. All right.
Sorry, I'll repeat. Guys, Jason Wright from Essential Property Management. I'm really sorry about that hookup or that mix-up. My family business has been operational for 14 years. We service most of residential South Australia, and that is from Aldinga in the south and Freeling in the north. We've got a really broad team that handles all of that. What makes us different is that we can go that whole area, including Balaclava in the north. In Adelaide, the market is starting to teeter a little bit, but it's really still crazy busy for all intents and purposes. The 4 popular council regions in South Australia for investors right now are the town of Gawler, Playford City Council, Salisbury City Council, and the city of Onkaparinga. 3 of those are in the north, Onkaparinga in the south. So let's talk briefly about each of those. Gawler, high demand, really great public and private schools in that entire region, and rents have increased in the last 12 to 18 months by about $150 per week across the board. This year we're seeing increases more like 40 to 50, whereas last year they were 80 to 100. As per the ladies previously, everyone is staying on in most of those regions. In the city of Playford, it falls into 2 sections. City of Playford is an older section, which is post-war. 10-pound Poms came here and bought really cheap property. And City of Playford has all the Elizabeths, which nationally has a reputation for being relatively low socio. The great thing about that is it yields really well. So you can get a 5.5%, 6% yield in a lot of the city of Playford. So that's really good. And the other great thing about the city of Playford is that they're really open to development. So they bend the rules more than other councils. City of Salisbury, which is one of my 2 favourites, that and Onkaparinga. The suburbs I really like in City of Salisbury is Paralowie, Parafield Gardens and Burton. Those cities or those suburbs have boomed in the last 12 months, but the subsidiary suburbs that you can still get a great bargain for around 400, 420 is Salisbury North, Salisbury Park and Salisbury Plain. But that Paralowie, Parafield Gardens, Burton, Salisbury East, they're more like 500, but they yield correctly at around 4.5% to 5.5%. The city of Onkaparinga, which has always been my favourite region, even though my office is in the north, the south, I have a real passion for it. And the city of Onkaparinga is another council that rolls out the red carpet in terms of helping development. The city of Onkaparinga, you've got Morphett Vale, which is my favourite suburb. Morphett Vale falls into 4 suburbs. So when you look at it on the map, on Google Maps, the bottom left corner between Beach Road and Flax Mill Road, don't touch it. Or if you do touch it, it's got to be a bargain. The other 3 corners of Morphett Vale are really fantastic, and they all yield somewhere between 4.8 and 5.5%. Across most of Adelaide these days, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom will cost you around that 500,000, except you'll get better prices in the city of Playford. And then 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double garage will set you back about 650. But we are $1 per 1,000. So for every 1,000 you spend, you should get $1 in rent. So in other words, $500 is a $500,000 property. Hope that makes sense. To conclude, the other thing for us is we're sitting at about a 0.08% vacancy, which is the same as last year. Tamika mentioned in the Hobart market that she's seeing higher days on market. We're absolutely seeing the same. We're seeing that it's more like 20 to 23 days as well, when once upon a time it was 7 to 10. I think agents are falling into 2 groups at the moment, those ones that are dropping the price by $70, $80 a week in order to get a really quick result. But my argument is you should try 1 week at the high price. And the reason is if you achieve that, well, that's a $4,000 return. So that's worth risking a week's rent for. And in 85% of cases, that's rendering a result for our owners. So it's right on that cusp. The other thing in the South Australian market that I do need to let people know is this time last year, every application was a 10 out of 10. So we're still getting 60 to 80 applications per property, but these days, 20 of them are pretty good, 60 of them are not so good. So we're definitely seeing a difference in the quality of applicant. If you've got any more questions, I'm also happy to share my details in the comments, and if anyone's, and you can contact me direct. Thank you.
Hi, welcome everybody, and thanks for having me, Ash. My name's Brenda. I'm from Property Insurance Plus. We're a specialist insurance company that just assists landlords with insurance for their investment homes. So I've got a slideshow which I'll present to you, and I'm very happy to share a copy of it afterwards to confirm any details as well. So Property Insurance Plus have been in business now since 2008. We've recently merged with another specialist insurance company called SGUA. So between both brands, we do have a head office based in WA and also a head office based in Victoria. So it just allows us to be that national company and there to assist all landlords when needed. Our underwriter is located in Sydney, that's Asset Insure, and we can insure any properties under the 26 parallels. So for that would mean anything south of Kalbarri in WA and south of Hervey Bay in Queensland as well. So we have 3 products that we currently have on offer to assist, and we have a landlord policy, a holiday policy, and a building policy. So it's really important to understand the terminology between the different policies on offer, because all insurance companies use different names. So to keep it simple, building is bricks and mortar, pools, patios, pergolas, and fences. And you don't need to insure the land. So it's up to you as the landlord, not your property manager, to come up with a building sum to insure your home for. So I will pop a link, which is an independent link, into the chat box. So if you would like a hand to calculate what you should insure your building for, then that will be there to assist you as well. It's important with the building policy that you have 2 parts to the cover. So you need to make sure that you have standard perils, which means house fire, storm damage, impact damage, covered underneath the building insurance section, but you also need to make sure that you have tenant cover there as well. So that's something that I do see missing from some building policies on offer. So just make sure that you've got that there. In the landlord policy, the landlord definition would be the contents and also the rent loss. So contents, we cover up to 70,000. A standard definition for contents would be curtains, carpets, light fittings. We also look to cover floating floorboards, underlay, and anything you as the investor leaves behind for the tenant's use. So that might be, for example, a dishwasher because it's not fixed, so it's free in the home, or maybe there's some furniture. We don't insure things like knives and forks and small items, but definitely your largest items. And your property manager would do what we'd call as an inventory report or an ingoing report on the property. The third policy that we have is a holiday policy. So that has a little bit of flexibility. So we call that a hybrid policy. So you can have building and landlord as well with that one. With the hybrid policy, you as the investor might decide to live in that property for to a maximum of up to 3 months, but you also might want to convert it to a long-term investment home as well. So if you were to take that policy, let us know. So we put what we call as an endorsement on that, so you can be flexible between both, and we provide you with the PDF for both policies. So we do have, sorry, my screen's popped up with something else there, giving me a message. So we do have the policy covers for all fixed term and periodic leases. In each state, we also align that with the Residential Tenancies Act that would fall underneath your state legislation. So we also cover things, for example, in Victoria, legislation there now is you can't say yes or no to pets. Obviously, that's coming in WA as well. So we're mindful of also making sure that we align correctly with each state there too. So that you should have the coverage for both. I'll give you some definitions as well. This is really important because I do see a lot of investors get these definitions confusing. So loss of rent and rent default are two defined items. So they're very different. So loss of rent, the definition of that is, for example, the house burns down. So the loss of rent in the property would be covered underneath obviously the time, because the tenant's not there, so they're not paying rent. So it's because of an event that the loss of rent's occurred. And then, of course, we've got rent default. So rent default's if the tenant can't pay or chooses to not pay or can't pay for any reason. Then the next item is the legal expenses. So legal expenses is definitely something that is unique to us. So if something was to go wrong, for example, you needed to go to court or have your tenant removed from the property, then you could claim on legal expenses with us. So legal expenses is, for example, your application to court, your hourly rate for your property manager, and also the bailiff. So that's really important to make sure you've got that in there as well, because that can come out to be quite expensive. Contents. So I've discussed the definition of contents, which is curtains, carpets, light fittings, floating floor coverings, underlay, and anything you leave behind for the tenant's use. It's really important that you have accidental coverage as well as deliberate. We have both in both of our policies. So the definition for accidental could be, whoopsie, spilt the red wine on the carpet, or deliberate, they could deliberately iron a shirt on the carpet and burn it because they've chosen not to use their ironing board. So it's important to make sure you've got both and that the tenant damage is covered underneath both your policies. And that's some good wording to make sure you look for. Legal liability. This is usually found under both. This is actually found under both of our policies. So legal liability is an example would be under the building policy where a tenant hurts himself, for example, say stood on a bore lid and fell into the bore well itself. So of course, then that would be a legal liability claim against you as the landlord. So it's important to make sure that you have that coverage under your building. As an example, under the landlord policy, we actually had a tenant where the pelmet of their curtain landed and hit the tenant on the head, or a tenant could trip over and hurt themselves. So it's important that you've got both policies. You might have an investment property that's a freestanding home, or maybe it's in a strata complex. So if it's in a strata complex, it's really important that you have a landlord policy just for the liability cover alone. So you've got cover inside your home if someone was to hurt themselves. So with the strata, you might pay building insurance with them and they cover liability on the external sections only, but they don't cover inside your property. So it's really important to make sure you've got both. We do have a claims team as well that works in both sides of Australia. So they're there to assist you with any claims or claims queries. What I'll do at the end of the slideshow is I'll give you some contact numbers for the claims team, our underwriting team, and also our accounts team. So if you've got any questions relating to any of the departments, then you're welcome to reach out to them directly. We have a special running at the moment where all new policies receive 2 months for free. So all quotes will be for 12 months plus 2 months for free. So it's a nice little bonus for you as well that we have there on offer. And we have a fixed price landlord policy. So I'll also put the details and the price for the landlord in the chat afterwards too. So you can see what the price is in your state. So the policies are the same in every state. It's just the governments charge a different tax. So you're mindful of that as well. Any questions? I look forward to helping you. I'll be here for a little while. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll be sure to share all of the contact details as well.
Okay, hello everybody. Thanks Ash for having me. My name is Melissa Hickson. I'm the director of an agency called Prime Residential and we are located in Melbourne's Western Corridor. We service from Melbourne's west all the way into the inner city. So I'm going to be touching on both areas, and then obviously if you have any questions about anything else, pop it into the chat and I'll be happy to go through it with you guys. So what we're finding in Melbourne at the moment, we're located in Melbourne. What we're finding in Melbourne at the moment is things are changing pretty drastically. So if you sort of remember a couple of years ago, Melbourne was hit really hard by COVID. It was hit really hard by rentals going down and vacancy rates going up and things like that. Melbourne used to sit at around 10% of the vacancy rate in the inner city of Melbourne a couple of years ago. So things are changing quite drastically. It's definitely a great time to be an investor in Melbourne at the moment. So what we're finding at the minute is we're looking at vacancy rates when I'm talking about Melbourne in the city itself. We're looking at vacancy rates of around 2.3%, so coming down from around 10 or 11% probably 18 months ago. So that's still quite good. So that's the inner city area of like Melbourne, around South Melbourne and things like that. Where we're located is in the Western Corridor. So we're probably 20 k's out of the CBD, and we are in a bit of a lower socioeconomic area. Our vacancy rate at the moment is sitting under 1%. So we were quite significantly higher than that quite a while ago. So that is actually really, really good numbers. We're finding that we are getting a heap of people coming through our properties and a heap of inquiries coming through. We're probably averaging anywhere between around 20 to 25 applications per property. So still really good numbers, but very similar to what Jason said, is that some of the quality of applications are not where we want them to be, especially within our area. It is, as I said, a bit of a lower income area. So we need to be really fussy with our renters. So we are kind of going through the process at the moment where we're getting a whole heap of inquiries coming through, and we really need to snap up the really good renters really quickly, which is what you need to do if you're having a property that's available in Melbourne. You really want to have a great agent on board that's really proactive with actually getting their applications processed and finalised, because the good renters are getting snapped up really super quick. We are also finding people are applying on videos. So we do a lot of videos within our marketing. Obviously, coming from sort of COVID, we implemented that within the business. We're finding that people are relocating back to Melbourne, which is actually great, and we're also finding that people are happy on the videos. So that's been happening a lot more because the market is getting quite competitive as well. We're probably getting anywhere between 5 to 6 groups through our open houses, which is fairly good numbers for Melbourne. And at the moment, our days on market is sitting around 10 days on market. So we're still leasing properties really super quick, and we actually don't have a lot of stock available either to rent. What we are finding with our lease renewals, which is actually something that has changed drastically. So Melbourne was very far behind a lot of the other locations, being that they had a peak in their rental market quite some time ago. we are now finding that we are having a peak in our market at the moment. So what that means for the owners is we're getting a high number of renters that are wanting to stay on in their properties. So we are looking at a renewal rate of around 92% at the moment, which is really great for Melbourne. And we're also finding that the people that are renewing their contracts are renewing them at a higher rental price. So people are wanting to stay put and they are happy to pay more money to stay in their properties, which is great. That means that the owners, obviously that some owners have been affected by the interest rates and things like that. So they're looking to increase their rent, and obviously the market being at a peak, they're obviously wanting to maximize their rental return. So we're finding that the renters are renewing anywhere between sort of $20 to $40 per week is actually pretty average for a rent increase in Melbourne at the moment in my area. So that was non-existent a couple of years ago. We were actually finding that rents were staying put for 12, 18, 24 months at any one time. So that's really, really great for the Melbourne market. People are staying on and the rents are being increased, and most properties are having rents increased by $20 to $40 is pretty average for our area at the moment, which is really, really great. If you are looking to invest in Melbourne at the moment, what I would suggest to look at is some of the areas that we are finding are really peaking at the moment is areas like the back of Wyndham Vale, which is about 25 k's out of the CBD, and it's an estate called Mamboran. If you want more information, I'll put it in the chat anyway so you can learn how to spell it. And areas like Melton South, Strathtulla, also really, really good areas to look at investing in. They've got a lot of infrastructure going in there. There's a lot of new schools, there's a lot of new shopping centres, and we're finding that those areas are going really well for rents. They are looking around sort of 500,000 to 600,000 for like a 4-bedroom home in that area. Even townhouses are going really well out there as well. So I'll put the details into the chat so you have the information there. Overall, Melbourne is going really great. So yeah, days on market is really low. Inquiry level is high, rents are going up, and the other states have experienced this quite a while ago, and we are experiencing it now. So it's a great time to be a investor in Melbourne. So I'll put my details in the chat. Have a great session, and thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jo Natoli. I'm the principal of the rental specialists, and I'm based in Glebe in Sydney. We lease and manage properties across the whole Sydney metropolitan area, as far west as Penrith, as far north as Pembrey, and obviously out to the east, which is where the ocean is, so we can't go further than that. Things in Sydney are really, really good for investors right now. In our current rent roll, we're seeing increases in our rents between 10 and 28%, depending on where the property is. Now, the vacancy rate is sitting at around about 1%, which is come down from 1.9% this time last year. But please remember, in Sydney, there are markets within markets, so the 1% really is quite broad, covering the whole of the Sydney market. So to get more specifics, you would really need to drill down further into specific suburbs. Now, what we're finding in our office is that tenants are willing to renew their leases. We have nobody looking at moving. The market is really, really tight at the moment. There's only about 9,000 to 9,500 properties on the rental market at the moment. So supply is really, really tight. Tenants do not want to be in the rental market looking for properties. We're finding that lease renewals are being taken up exceptionally high numbers with our tenants. I can recall only one tenant who's moved out in the last 4 months as a result of a rent increase. So everybody that we're offering new leases to are taking up those new leases at the rental increases of between 10 and 28%. Most of the increases we're seeing are around about the 11 to 15% mark. It's very interesting. The biggest rent increases that we're seeing coming into our office are from those properties that have had tenants vacate, and then we're putting that property back on the market. We're seeing increases in rent of up to around 30%. So that's quite interesting. What I've been saying to people lately is that the rents that we're experiencing here in Sydney at the moment are now back to those pre-COVID levels. So investors in Sydney suffered with losses of up to 30% during lockdowns. That's all gone now, and we are back to those pre-COVID levels, which is fantastic. Now, to give some idea on some specific suburbs, I've just pulled out of my rent roll. So we've over the last 2 months, we've issued 27 rental increase notices to our tenants. And just to give you an idea, a 2-bedroom unit in Marrickville, we've increased it up to 28%. A 2-bedroom terrace house in Marrickville is the increase has been 12%. A 1-bedroom apartment in Piermont has gone up by 15%. A 2-bedroom apartment in Hurstville has gone up by 33%. We've seen increases in the western suburbs in Cranebrook at around about 11% and in Kingswood at around about 13%. And we've also seen St Mary's go up as much as 19%. In the north, we've seen increases in Chatswood of around about 20%. In the city, in Surrey Hills, we've seen an increase of around about 20% as well. So as you can see, it's quite a broad brush here in Sydney, and there's a lot going on in different marketplaces and different property types as well. In terms of our vacancies, we don't have open homes. We are finding that we prefer to lease properties using small group inspections or one-on-one private inspections. All of our advertising is via video and interactive virtual tours. We are finding that our days on market is no more than 14 days. In fact, I've only had one property sit on the market for 14 days, and we just leased that last week. Everything else is being leased between 7 and 10 days. Video and virtual tours certainly help to achieve those results. So my clients in my agency are really benefiting from very, very low days on market, as well as the uplift in the rental returns. Now, pardon me, if you're looking at purchasing in Sydney, then look, you're not going to get too much for $500,000, unfortunately. You might be lucky to get a 1-bedroom unit in around the city or perhaps out towards the western suburbs. But if it's there are certain areas that you would want to stay away from in Sydney if that's your price range. Look, most investors are spending between 700 to 1.2 million in Sydney. That will get you a really good quality 2-bedroom apartment. In the western suburbs, it'll even get you a house and land, which may be big enough for you to add value via a granny flat or something like that. That's about it for the Sydney market at the moment. I'm going to stick around and be in the chat room. So if anybody has any questions about the Sydney market, then please put them in the chat room. I'll be monitoring it and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you and good night.
Hi everybody, my name is Tara Bradbury. I'm the Principal Lease Agents in Hervey Bay, Queensland. We are located about 3.5 hours north of Brisbane. To give you a bit of an idea, Brisbane's obviously our major capital city area, and we're north from there. Something that I wanted to share that we've noticed is over the last 2 years for us, it has been a 3 to 5, if you're lucky, days on market vacancy period. And for our area now, we're finding that that's going from 7 days to 14 days, which is still a really good market for investors. But from what I've been told, just to give an update for those who are wanting to get some more information city-based, they're now seeing that 3 to 5 days on market. So it's kind of done a bit of a flip from regional to city for us here in Queensland. We've only just started sales within our business, but I do have a little bit of background on any investors that are trying to find something up to that $500,000 mark. I'd probably suggest that your best bet is to be looking at units and properties that are anywhere up to 3-bedroom. And it will be quite likely that if you are able to secure a property that is up to that $500,000 price range, in that market there, it will still need a little bit of work to it. So I'd allow maybe $10,000, $20,000, $25,000, whether it includes carpets or repainting, just to have it rent ready for that great return that you should be able to achieve. A bit similar to what we heard down in South Australia. In Adelaide, if you spend, $500,000 on a property, the likelihood is that you'll get $500 a week return. So very similar there. We've had some really good strong rental yields in the last 2 years, and now we're finding the market is matching up with what you're getting rental return wise to what you're also investing in when you're purchasing property here. We do have some exciting things that are happening within the Fraser Coast, Hervey Bay region that is exciting, I think, for investors, not just on what you can achieve here in the short term, but in the long term as well. There's some big investment around our Hervey Bay City Centre, where there's been $100 million invested into what's going to be a new library and council chambers town centre area. Major development in the marina side as well, which is going to encourage 200 jobs. We've just had a new Bunnings built, and that has also been a $59 million investment with 80 new jobs. Down at EDI, I've secured a tender with the Torbanley train manufacturing, which will encourage 800 jobs for the area. There's a list that I can certainly go through that I'd love to share, and I won't rabbit on with that now, but there are some really exciting things happening here specifically, where there's a lot of money and investment being put into our region, which is fantastic. Our current vacancy rate across Queensland, and certainly fairly consistent with that Brisbane heading up north region, is still between 0.6 to 0.8%. I would suggest in the Hervey Bay market in particular, we're probably just on that 1 up to about now 1.2%. This time last year, you'd be lucky to have 40, 45 properties on the rental market. As of today, we have 137 properties for rent. Our business currently has 3 properties that are vacant, and those 3 are units. And last week we've leased 4 properties. So there's still enough consistency of that flow on coming through of quality tenants, and what everyone has been talking about, and it's quite interesting to hear that it's so similar across each state, is that in the last 2 years, you'd have 5 of 10 tenants that were perfect, and then you were tenant matching and you're trying to assign them to each of the homes that were coming up. Now it's down to 1 to 2, and if you're not processing those applications within a fast time frame, not a reasonable time frame, there are other competitive agents that are out there that are wanting to secure those tenants. So it's really important that if you are an investor and your property manager is reaching out to you with a great application, please do make yourself available, because they can go onto another property without even telling you. And the reality is that they really want to find a home to be secure for when they're moving to your area. So they will have, potentially 5 or 10 applications out there, and whoever says yes to them first is the likelihood of the one that they will take. What that also then means is a lot of those applications that are coming in are very similar. We have virtual tours on our properties, and because we are based on the beautiful edge here in Hervey Bay with Fraser Island at our back doorstep, we are a tourist mecca, and we also do find that we do get a lot of interchanging medical staff and people that will come to our region for that sea change opportunity and will rent with us for 12 months, 2 years, and then go on to that next location. So we do get a really good variety of outer area people coming to our area, and then encourage them to stay in our region. Open homes, we don't tend to do a lot of open homes, a bit similar to what everybody else was talking about, but I will say that again, those numbers have dropped off. I still have a lot of confidence in the market for our investors, but you've got to move quickly on those applications. We had an inspection today where typically at one of our units, we would have 10 to 12 arrive at that one appointment. We had 3 go through today, and 2 of those have put in applications, and both of those applications will be great for the property. So that property is likely to have a tenant move in by this Friday, which is a fantastic outcome for that investor. Lease renewals, what we're seeing is about a 90% conversion rate on our lease renewals. We are still a very attractive region to buy in, and we have great people that are here working or they're relocating to the area, and I still believe it's quite affordable to buy as well. So we do find that some of our tenants who rent with us are looking at purchasing. So they rent for 12 months first, have a look around the market, decide where they want to be. We'd like to see some more investors in the market. I have found that was quite strong. We're at 2023 now. So about 2021, we had a really good surge where there was a lot of investor activity as our market was starting to slowly go up. We're seeing a bit more of that activity back again. And I think that's due to a lot of the infrastructure and investment that has been happening in our region, which is really exciting. The lease renewals are still seeing some rent increases as well. I would suggest anywhere from $10, $20 up to $30 per week. If you're doing more than that, then tenants will look and say, well, I can see that there's 114 properties on the rental market. I might have a look around and see if I can save myself, $20 or $40 in my back pocket. So I do encourage those of you who are investors out there watching this today to really think about that and what those vacancy periods may look like. So far, they're short in our region, but at the same time, that can change overnight. That can change in a few weeks, as we've seen. That's all from me. I hope that has been very helpful, and I'll now hand back over to Ashley for the next person.
Hi everyone, I am Kylie Walker. I am the owner of I Think Property. We specialise in real estate in Southeast Queensland, and we currently have offices based in Ipswich and Toowoomba. We started our business 15 years ago, and it was mainly because we were having so many bad property management experiences ourselves as investors. So we thought maybe we could do things a little bit better. And now here we are down the track 15 years later. Tonight, I really want to focus on why Ipswich and Springfield are great areas to consider investing in, but I'll also touch a little bit on Toowoomba as well. So Springfield to Ipswich is known as the Western Growth Corridor, and it was dubbed a few years ago as the fastest growing region in Australia. And we've had huge amounts of developments, and new communities have sprung up all throughout this corridor. And I've been here for 15 years running this business, and rental demand has always been high. I think we've had one period in the last 15 years where supply exceeded demand, and that was after a whole heap of new developments shot up pretty much at the same time. Building has now slowed down, and the tenant demand is bigger than ever right now. We have vacancy is under 1%, not just in my business, but across a lot of the other local businesses in the area. I currently have only 2 properties available for rent, one in Ipswich and one in Toowoomba. And we are receiving around 10 applications at times for vacant properties. We're also getting really strong numbers still through open homes. But we don't have to hold a lot of them because we're actually able to rent a lot of properties without even advertising them currently, because there's just so many people waiting to get a property. It's actually taking us less than a week on average to rent a property. But prices when it comes to lease renewals, they're not increasing like they were. We're probably still putting it up on average, maybe $20 to $30. And a lot of tenants are deciding to stay put because pretty much there isn't really much else out there in the market for them to go to. I did some research earlier this afternoon, and currently in the last month, there was only 9 new properties advertised for rent in Ipswich, and Springfield had 17 new properties. There is an issue at times, a little disclaimer here, the quality of applications in Ipswich can be challenging at times, and just because it's a lower socioeconomic demographic. But we're not experiencing that at the moment because we're actually getting a large migration of people who can't afford to rent or buy in Brisbane. So Ipswich and Springfield are only sort of 30 minutes or 20 minutes from Brisbane CBD. So a lot of people are moving and migrating out west to the suburbs because they're just way more affordable. So the rental yields we're seeing at the moment are between 5% and 7% across Ipswich, Springfield and Toowoomba. It is very hard if you're looking to buy a property to find anything under $400,000 now. Sales prices, though, are starting to stabilise a little bit, but they have been up by 10 to 20% across the board. I personally feel like the cycle is about to move back in favour of investors. So we've had a lot of first home buyers enter these markets because, like I said, rental prices in Brisbane went so crazy, as well as sales prices. So we've had a lot of people move out and purchase properties in Ipswich. And what generally happens is when we have a lot of these emotional buyers or the homeowner buyers in the market, they tend to drive the prices a lot higher. But numbers at sales open homes, I checked in with my team over the weekend, and they're getting less and less people showing up at their open homes at the moment. So I feel that prices are going to start adjusting to meet that demand as well. Median sales prices in both areas, or all three areas really, are around the 500K mark. And a 4-bedroom property will rent for around that 500 to 600 per week. So again, it's that 5 to 6% rental yields are still being achieved. Some suburbs that I would recommend you look into if you are considering investing in this region. Redbank Plains, it's experienced a huge population growth since COVID. Another one, Wulkuraka, which is really hard, and I'll put the name in the chat for you. It's got just recently opened a new housing development, and there is a lot more housing developments in the pipeline. It's a little bit west of Ipswich, so it's got that really nice country feel. And when I say it's only a 5-minute drive from Ipswich, but it's got a really nice country feel, country town feel, and a lot of people are enjoying that sort of vibe at the moment. And another popular suburb to consider is Collingwood Park. It's really popular with defence. So Ipswich is home to one of Australia's largest defence bases, and it's a lot of the defence families like living in that area. They've got a real community happening in that area as well. What else can I tell you? There's huge growth predicted in Ipswich, Springfield and Toowoomba. There's a lot of major infrastructure projects on the cards. Springfield has just got their AFL stadium about to open. The Ipswich Defence is actually going to be expanding, and there's also a rail line in the works between Ipswich and Toowoomba as well. Speaking of Toowoomba, it is considered now one of Australia's fastest growing centres, regional centres. Property prices are going through the roof there, and they're only sitting on the market for around, on average, 13 days. And experts are considering it one of Australia's strongest property markets. And another, so I would just be watching this market if you are a serious investor. The population there is expected to double over the next decade or so. So if you would like to know more about investing in Ipswich, Springfield or Toowoomba or anywhere in Southeast Queensland, let me know. I'll put my details in the chat and I'd be happy to connect with you further. Thanks for having me, Ash, and happy investing, everyone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Aaron Larkin. I'm speaking on behalf of MCG Quantity Surveyors this evening, possibly the best quantity surveyors in the world. We're a national firm. I'm speaking out of WA at the moment, Perth-based, but our head office is in New South Wales, and we have people just like me in every state. So we can have some questions after this presentation. Hopefully I can answer them all timely. So today I'm here to speak about tax depreciation and what we need to know. So first of all, why or what tax depreciation is and why it's important, how to tell if a property would benefit from deductions, and the fundamentals of depreciation and what many may not know. So what is depreciation? As a building ages, the building and its assets within it wear out. They depreciate in value. So the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, allows property owners to claim a tax deduction based on this wear and tear. Quantity surveyors, such as myself, are qualified to estimate the construction costs and are registered tax agents, so we're able to prepare reports based on this wear and tear and the decline in value. So how depreciation deductions work. So we, like I said, we're estimators, we're construction cost experts, and we estimate the construction cost of a building on the value of its assets. Assets could include a kitchen, blinds, carpet, the building itself. From there, we get a total depreciation deduction for each financial year. If the property investor earns $100,000 per year and we find $11,000 worth of deductions in that particular year, they will only pay tax on the income of $89,000. So tax payable on $100,000 is $24,632. On $89,000 is only $20,562. So that's the property investor or owner saving $4,070 on their tax bill that year. So put it simply, we help or we save property investors money on their tax bill. We put money back in their pocket. So the majority of investment properties, about 60%, are running their properties at an annual loss, so negatively geared. After a tax depreciation schedule, properties could possibly become neutrally or even positively geared. Many investors are unaware of this, and a lot of property managers and property real estate experts are winning business just by having this conversation with their clients. A conversation about tax depreciation is always a positive conversation. So there's two components to tax depreciation. There's Division 40 and Division 43. I have no idea where Division 41 and 42 are, but these are the main two for us. So Division 40 are the loose assets, the plant and equipment. Each asset category has a different effective life, and this is determined by the Australian Tax Office. The effective life serves to generate the rate of depreciation. So under the diminishing method, carpet will be, I think it's 25%, or I do know, it's 25% deduction per year. And that's based on 8 years of the carpet's effective life. The carpet has 8 years effective life as per the Australian Tax Office. So if you place $3,500 worth of carpet into a property, you'll have a claim of $875 in the first full year, which pays for our fee. Our fee is $600 flat fee plus GST, which is also tax deductible. Since May 2017, you can only claim on Division 40, so that carpet, let's take for example, if you buy a new property or add new items. So put another way, if you live in the property and that carpet is the existing carpet, you cannot claim on that. If you live in the property, you leave the property, you put a new carpet in, then you rent the property out, you can claim on that carpet. The second component is Division 43. Now this is depreciation is calculated at 2.5% of the value each year for 40 years. It's on the building structure itself. So you're getting $250 per year every $10,000 you spend on the property. So $40,000 worth of renovation works will get you $1,000 claim per year. Again, that covers our cost considerably. So the cut-off date for Division 43 deductions on the original structure is the 16th of the 9th, 1987. That said, you can still find deductions on the structure, not the structure itself, but possibly the building or any additional work that's been done to the building if it was built prior to that. And I'll touch upon that in my next slides. So here is an example of how a property has gone from negatively geared to positively geared using a tax depreciation schedule. I'll gloss over the figures because I know we're keen for time here. So this property is $550,000 purchase price, $450 rent per week, which goes against the grain from what I've heard this afternoon, but that's what we have in this particular instance here. So the total income is $23,400. Then you take the expenses into account. So expenses, when you put them together, rates, management fees, loan, is $29,750,000. So there's a shortfall there of $6,350. Now, with no depreciation schedule, you're looking at 77 per week in the red, negatively geared. With a depreciation schedule, you're looking at a tax refund of $7,500, which puts your cash outlay in 1,180 in the black. That's what you have in back. So you're actually taking in a $23 per week income off that property. So you're positively geared. And that's just one instance where a tax depreciation schedule can make a huge impact. So how do you know if the property will benefit from deductions? Well, there's three main triggers, and these are simple. Trigger 1 was a property purchased brand new. Number 2 was a property constructed after the 16th of September 1987. And number 3, if the property does not match trigger 1 or 2, has it had around about $40,000 worth of renovations or improvements? So I'm putting the kitchen in the background. You could probably hear some background noise where it's not tradies, but it's 2 young kids, but it's because there's a knock through going on and there's a huge echo. And I know you're not going to get much change from $40,000 after putting the kitchen and appliances in. So it's always worthwhile having a look at what work's been done, even if the building is older than the 1987 cut-off date. So here are some fundamentals and what maybe many don't know. The vast majority of properties built prior to 1987 will have significant depreciation deductions available. So, yeah, I just read your comment. It does sound like dinner time at the zoo, by the way, not Aaron's house, but at the zoo. Sorry, yeah. So the vast majority of properties built prior to 1987 will have significant depreciation deductions available. A renovation, a kitchen, carpet, paintwork, it all adds up. And as long as we can get around about $30,000 to $40,000 worth of renovations or additions, there's deductions worthwhile, and there's a return on the investment of $600. So in 2021 and 2022, we found that almost 37% had been extensively renovated to an average of $29,521, which would give you a return on your initial investment of $600 plus GST. A fifth of investors lived in a property prior to renting it out. So maybe we couldn't claim on the Division 40, the Division 43 we could, or did they put anything new in after they moved out, which we could claim. The average amount of deductions missed by investors was $20,537. The average first year depreciation deduction was almost $9,000, just short of $9,000, $8,921. So there's definitely a conversation to be had between real estate experts, property managers, and their clients. And it's definitely good to reach out to characters like myself, because we will know if there's some hidden deductions that we could release and gain a return on investment on our fee. So that said, there's no silly questions. I'm going to dip out soon. I will be in the chat box here for you guys to fire away at any questions. I'm going to hang about until the end because this is all very beneficial for me to watch. And yeah, I wish you the best of the evening. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. That was fantastic. So my name is Samantha Prittis. I am from SoCo Realty in South Perth. I am the Business Development Manager here, and part of my role is to assist investors when they're purchasing property. So we have heard a lot about the Perth rental market and that we're in crisis and all of that jazz. And I have to say that particularly over the past couple of months, that real sense of urgency has dropped off. And we are still seeing big numbers of people turn up, but it's at a manageable stage now. There's certainly not that full chaos that we were seeing earlier, a few months ago. So with our lease renewals, and I'm talking mainly about the Southern Corridor in Perth, so we actually manage property from Mandurah right through to Queen's Rock, but I'm going to focus on the south part today, and Ashley will go into the northern suburbs with you. So with the lease renewals, we are seeing most tenants are staying on. The average increase is between $30 and $50, and they are wanting to sign on for a minimum of 12 months. So we know that those tenants are locked in and they don't want to go anywhere, which is really great for the landlords. So that's been really good. The home opens that we've been doing have had great turnout. So we're averaging about 7 to 14 groups through each home open. It's important to mention that we do our home opens on the weekend, which obviously opens that up for a lot of people who work 9 to 5 and can't do the afternoon or what have you. So we are seeing good turnouts at those home opens. We generally only need to do one home open and then the property is leased, and the applications that we're seeing are really strong, and quite often the landlords are being presented with 2 or 3 options to choose from, and we are seeing the new norm where people are also offering over and above the asking price. So probably on average about $50 over asking is what we're seeing most, and it is happening more and more. It is also important to mention that people won't overpay for a property. So you do have some people that will put a property online which is of poor quality, and they're asking, exorbitant amount for this home, and tenants just aren't applying for it. So it is sitting there vacant. So yeah, although there is that little bit of a rental crisis, people aren't going to pay top dollar for, a poor quality home that hasn't been maintained. If you're looking to buy in Western Australia, and particularly in the Southern Corridor, there's a couple of places that I sort of had on my ones to watch list that I created earlier on in the year. One suburb in particular, Safety Bay. Now, this is a beachy vibe suburb. It is close to the Garden Island Navy base, so there is Navy personnel that live down there. The client purchased the property for under $500,000, and it is literally just a couple of streets back from the beach. Once the property was leased, she's getting about a 5.75 rental yield on that property, and the lease was for 18 months, which was a fantastic result, and it pretty much leased after that first home open. So that was a really good result for her, and under 500,000, which was good. Another suburb, if you were looking to spend a little less, is, well, two actually. There's Coolangatta and Hillman. I'll put them in the chat as well. So one client purchased a property in Coolangatta for under 400,000. It actually leased for 470 a week, giving her a 6.1% rental yield. But the kicker with this property is because of the land size and the positioning of the home, she's actually going to be able to put a granny flat at the back of this property. So we're in negotiations now with her and the company to be able to make this happen for her. But essentially, she's going to turn this property into a dual income property. And it is something that can be done here in Western Australia. You can lease them out separately as two different properties. It's not an issue. And this property is perfectly set up for that. It's got the access, it's got room for additional fencing and all those bits and pieces that need to be taken into consideration when doing that. But it is something that's going to work really well for her and her property, and providing her with that dual income. So I do have some more information about granny flats and the do's and don'ts and that sort of stuff. So if you want any of that information, just drop me a message in the chat. I'd be more than happy to send that info through to you. But yeah, as I said, overall in the Southern Corridor, that real sense of chaos has come out of the market, but it's definitely still really strong, minimal downtime with vacancy rates and good lease renewals. So it's been really good. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam. And I will finish off by having a quick chat about the north of the river or north of Perth areas. So it's really, really interesting to hear the other states, because a couple of things that are quite similar, and I've just written my notes. But Nat, I think, was saying that the cost of living is really affecting families, and that's definitely very, very relevant for Perth as well. Not only am I seeing the cost of living being a problem, particularly in the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom family homes. Families are really, really feeling it. So I'm very mindful of that. And the rental stress is definitely evident in some areas. And I also agree that overall, the quality of applications coming through, you do have to be really careful, and you've got to act quickly when you do get a good application. So that's definitely relevant. And also, exactly what Sam was saying, I think some landlords go into investing and think it's a rental crisis and people will pay whatever to secure a property, and that's actually not the case. So people won't overpay. People are still very, very careful, and they will pay a little bit. And like Sam said, we are definitely seeing anywhere between $20 to $50 per week being offered over and above. But it's really important to make sure that people aren't offering this extra to counteract for a crappy application reference. So application references always come first, and if a really good application offers more, then that's just a little bit of a bonus for you. But be careful that people aren't trying to sweeten the deal because they don't have the good reference. So I just want to make sure that was mentioned. Another thing that I'm also finding in the Perth market is that selling agents are quite often pricing properties pretty low, and it's not that the property is worth that low amount. It's actually a marketing strategy. So be really mindful, because I know that some people come to me and say, oh, Ash, it's gone 50,000 over market price for buying a property. But it's not that it's gone 50,000 over. It's just that that selling agent has used that marketing tactic to draw more people in, and then those properties are selling for around 7% over on average the marketing price. But it was a marketing tactic, not necessarily the property being worth that low amount in the first place. So that's something definitely to watch. So going into the trending suburbs north of the river, and trending suburbs, I mean where I get the most inquiries from. In that 500,000 mark, 500 to 600,000, I'm seeing people buying in Marangaroo and Tapping. Still a lot happening in Merriwa, but it's also very, very hard to buy in Merriwa. So people are losing patience and looking in surrounds. We're also finding Alexander Heights and Craigie and Mindarie are still popular. So there's a lot of really good natural infrastructure happening north of Perth, with the train line being extended and the freeway being extended. New Ocean Reef Marina, there's a few things happening. So definitely some good spots. To give you an example, really recent case studies, I just had a client purchase in Mindarie a 4-bedroom 2-bathroom home. He paid $610,000. We advertised the property for $590 per week, because when the higher the sale price, the lower the yield a little bit. Anyways, we got applications for that one and leased it for $650 per week. So that was a fantastic result. And then another recent one in Merriwa, the client bought a 4-bedroom 2-bathroom home for $540,000. It was a pretty nice one. And that rented out for $550 per week. So we are seeing that when we get over that 500,000, we are seeing that yield tighten up a little bit. But I have been waiting for a while for it to really tighten up to what Jason in Adelaide was saying, where, where it's, you buy for 500,000, you get $500 per week. We are still seeing that you buy for 500,000, but you get you buy for 500,000, but you get 520 plus per week. And it's been like that for a while, and I'm really waiting for that to shift, and it will have to shift soon. I just don't know why. I don't know when. So that's why I think it's really still great investing in Perth at the moment. There's not many cheap suburbs north of the river, but if you were looking at around that 400 to 450,000, I have had a few people dabble in Lockridge, which is one of our eastern suburbs. So Lockridge has been popular with a couple, also Beachborough, and also still in that low end of Merriwa as well. So as a bit of a rule, I say that for a suburb to be really hot on the rental market, we are looking at less than 5 properties being advertised for rent. That would consider a very, very hot suburb. And some of these suburbs actually only have 1 or 2 properties available for rent. So you can see that when you put yours on the market in that suburb, you can really capture a fantastic rent, and people will offer over and above. But the minute we have suburbs where they've got over 10 or 15 properties available, then there's less chance of that happening. So that's something that you might just want to watch, is the rentals available in that suburb, just to determine whether it's really in demand or not. So that's a bit of a general look at the north of the river. Overall, pretty good though. We can't complain in Perth. We've got some great yields happening. Just watch that quality, and don't be an investor who thinks that people will pay ridiculous amounts for your property because there's a crisis. They won't. It's they are definitely needing to be very sensible, and I need investors to be sensible as well, because they will otherwise find their tenant in rental stress moving forward. So that is a update on the north of the river of Perth plus all around Australia, and I hope everyone learned a little bit from from each of the property managers. I am going to now just share a quick QR code. So thank you for all attending. If you have got a moment and can quickly do this survey for me, there's only a couple of questions, but what as a group we would really love to find out from the investors here is how often you would like an update like this. So these updates could be done every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. If they are helpful, then just let us know so that we can work something out. And I've also put a couple of other ideas for topics just to help with that self-education piece. I think as investors, it's really important to understand all these things like tax depreciation, your landlord insurance. I really need people to pay attention to their landlord insurance because I'm seeing some shocking ones around at the moment, and really just self-educate yourself as a landlord on these products. So there's a couple of other options on that survey that I thought would be really helpful, and hopefully you can help us choose which ones you would like to see, and we as a group will get them all together for you and hopefully see you again soon. So if everyone will receive the replay from today, do feel free to reach out to any of us with regards to investing in those areas. And if there's any feedback anyone's got or any questions, please send them through to me. All of us are pretty Googleable, but send them through to me. And you can get my details through propertyprofiling.com. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening, and I will talk to you all soon.